Hello, everybody. This is Mullenax, and welcome to the SFL Podcast. I'm joined tonight by Shann Varner. Shann, what's going on?
Man, thanks for having me, Steven.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Thanks for doing this on short notice. Guys, it's kind of an impromptu show. Your regular host, the wonderful host, Andy Hamilton, and Mighty RX. They're both busy tonight, so we are actually the inmates are running the asylum tonight, and we are doing this thing off the goodness gracious, can't even come up with the words. See, this is how impromptu this is. Yes, this is the skin of our teeth. We're kind of making this up as we go. We just want to give you guys a show tonight, get you ready for tomorrow's starting games. Actually going through tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow night, into Monday and Tuesday. You guys probably know that if you're listening to this. So let's just go ahead and jump right into the show and talk about the games that we had last week. Shann, are you ready to dive in?
I am. Let's get it.
Let's get it. First game we're going to talk about, the Atlanta Swarm at home defeat the St. Louis Gladiators 26-10. Man, the St. Louis Gladiators, they just can't catch a break, and this Atlanta Swarm, that's probably not the last time I'm going to make that mistake tonight, but this Swarm team has really came together this year, showing signs of some domination and actually kind of getting back into form. St. Louis continues to struggle. What are your thoughts on this game and maybe on each team so far this season, Shann?
Yeah, Atlanta played a great game. I think that the real picture here is going to be St. Louis's defense. St. Louis's defense was just bar none. I mean, if they can just get their offense going a little bit, I think the score would be a little bit closer. I still think that Atlanta would, pull ahead, slightly, but that defense for St. Louis is really clicking right now. They got to do something to get that offense going.
Yeah, and it may be a team build flaw. They switched out offensive coordinators recently, and they're still working out the playbook, I'm sure, because of our minimums and maximums. There's only so much you can do from game to game. Don't know if we really saw a big improvement from their offense. The fact that they're not going to their lone star tight end is kind of concerning. I thought that he could be the one that really is a game changer for them. I would really love to see them pound the rock and really slow down games. Let their defense win games for them. Let their running back, their gold star running back, and their offensive line win the games for them in time of possession and really have those kind of grunge match 13-10 type wins. I think that might be the answer for them. But if you're going to play the offensive game and you're going to go 4 wide out with no star wide receivers, you're just asking for trouble, in my opinion. Just because we all know the problems that non-star wide receivers have.
Right, absolutely. I mean, you can get the tight end involved, get that quarterback some confidence. Get some short outs, some quick outs there. Get it to him. Let the defense, with a team build as St. Louis has, pretty much everybody's going to be stuffing the run here. You're going to have to do some stuff to open this up. And I'm not just talking about during the game. I'm talking about, long term here. If every team's going to shut your run down, you're going to have a passing game. And right now, you're going to have plays where you get that tight end involved.
Absolutely. And as far as Atlanta is concerned, this is the time that, like last season where they started to slow down. It's good that they got a win here. I want to see them continue that and push that, a good winning streak into the postseason. So, let's see if they can continue to do that. Let's go ahead and move on to the next game, Shann. I think a team that you might know a little bit about, the Carolina Skyhawks played the Baltimore Crabs in Baltimore at Obey Stadium. Baltimore comes away with this one, but just barely, like you said, by the skin of their teeth there, 24-22. Thoughts on this game?
I know both of these teams. I've played Baltimore quite well. I actually coached and played for the Carolina Skyhawks. I think Carolina has had from the start of the season just has some bad luck. They've been in games, and just couldn't come away with the win. I think they're doing a better job at getting English involved, which should have been done from the start. But as long as they're turning things around now, I think they have a shot at winning a couple of games the rest of this season.
And if you're Baltimore, you're right in that 5-3 area. You're in a three-way tie there for third place, either in the playoffs picture. You're just in the playoff picture. You're just right out of it. You're kind of in that hazy area, and you've got Cleveland at 3-5, who I think they've proven they can be a hot team and get on a hot streak and absolutely score a bunch of points. So if you're Baltimore, does the close score worry you at all?
It does, because Mac Wavy in his offense is a high-powered offense. They can move the ball effectively with Prince Escobar. I mean, that guy is phenomenal. He just gets open at just the right times. I mean, Chicago played them last week. Special teams was just phenomenal. I believe they had 2 fumble recoveries, 4 touchdowns, and they had 1 interception, I believe. They went for a touchdown. And, like I said, Mac Wavy can move the ball down the field. Can Baltimore's defense handle that?
Well, Baltimore, this is the thing you got to remember about Baltimore. Up until last season, they were perennial playoff performers. They had made the playoffs every season they'd been in the league. And their specialty is kind of these close games and winning these close games. It really is kind of like their calling card. So maybe we're seeing that the Baltimore from a couple seasons ago, and maybe they'll start to do some things in the next few games to prove to us that they are that postseason team again. And as far as Carolina is concerned, probably the best team that's in or near the cellar. They've got the talent. They've got the ability. They score the points. But like you said, I think it's just a matter of just bad luck and bad timing, and maybe a wasted season for them. You talked a lot about Mac Wavy Jr. Let's go right into Cleveland's game. Cleveland welcomed the Chicago Wildcats. I think you know something about them as well. And what a game, 56-48. Chicago comes out on top, but a high-scoring performance. And we were talking about this a little bit pre-show, but you were talking about the special teams play of Cleveland really impressed you.
Yeah, I mean, they just came out the gate right off the bat. Coleman Kaleka just went, I believe it was like 90-something yards on a kick return, and that kind of set the Wildcats back a little bit. But we were kind of expecting that when you play Coleman Kaleka, and he's a great return guy. So we was looking at some of those things that might occur, but what we were wanting to do is just get our offense on the field first and take care of business. But unfortunately, on the very next play, A.J. Barnes fumbled the ball. A lineman, I believe number 71, 75, picks it up and runs it in for a touchdown. So now Chicago's down 14-0 within like 10 seconds. So now you've got to start looking at your quarterback like, hey, we need some points on the board.
And your quarterback came through big for you. E.T. King came up with the King and King connection, but 56 points. It's a crazy amount of points, Shann. And I think if you're Chicago, the win against a pretty hot team is going to give you confidence going forward. For Cleveland, I don't think they can hang their heads too much because, like you said, a lot of their points came in unconventional ways. If they would have been a little bit more consistent on offense and played some defense, they could have very much won that game. So I think both teams come out of this game with their head held high. There's a lot of positive things to take from both, but somebody has to win. Chicago grabs it there and moves to 5-3, and your guys are in the playoff hunt.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, E.T. King had 19 attempts with 25 completions. That's only 6 incomplete passes there, and he had 492 yards in that game with 6 touchdowns and only 2 interceptions.
Right. I think you mean to flip that, so that's 19 completions on 25 attempts.
Oh, yeah,
I'm
sorry.
He only missed 6 passes. Yeah. Just pointing out his efficiency, which is exactly what he was known for in Tallahassee, and he's kind of brought that over to Chicago, and it's really helped you guys really as a new team, not an expansion team, but as a new team, really burst out of the gate here.
Yeah, and at Mac Wavy, they did a great job at completing their passes also. But I think what really hurt Cleveland is they played too much man coverage and too much cover two on their last performance, and we were just able to burn them deep and over the middle. So, McWave is a great, and Cleveland Stallions is a great team, great organization. If you put up 48 points on somebody, I mean, teams need to be looking at that, and they do that pretty consistently.
Yeah, and like I said, they did that unconventionally. And so, goodness gracious, if their offense was on point every series, that would have been a crazy amount of points. Let's go on and move on to the next game, which is a bit of a shocker. Oklahoma City Renegades at home. They defeat the red-hot Houston Hyenas 34-31. Bit of a shocker here as Houston nearing the top of the leaderboard, and Oklahoma right down at the bottom. Oklahoma City now showing signs, Shann.
Yeah, it's like they had a burst of life at just the right time, to set this Houston Hyenas team back a little bit and say, hey, we're still here.
Well, they started the season hot and then fell off a little bit after a loss to Dallas. Sorry about that, Mike. But maybe this is one. Don't call it. This kind of one of those things you say. Don't call it a comeback because he's been here for years. He actually has been, and we know that he's got that old man running the ball, and he might have that Viagra or something in him, but he's up to the challenge. I don't know. That could be maybe a commercial for him or something. But Oklahoma City now kind of throwing their hat into the ring again. Maybe not as a playoff contender, although he still had time to do that, but maybe as a playoff spoiler for one of these teams in that division. All right, so we're going to go ahead and go to the next game, San Antonio versus Sioux Falls in the Sparrows' house. The Sparrows come away with a decisive victory, 40-14. San Antonio, Shann, was showing some signs there that they were getting competitive a little bit. And then Sioux Falls is coming off a loss to Dallas, and Sioux Falls just dominates in this game.
They do. Their defense played stellar. I mean, you're talking about season 6 kind of a defense. San Antonio, they have a great running back there. They also have a great passing game, as you see against Vancouver. They put up monster numbers, and in this game, I really didn't see that. I didn't see the transition over from that past couple of games come over to this game here, Stephen.
Yeah, and you think about their last game, against Mexico, and what a shootout that last 2 minutes.
Absolutely.
Was. And it was just a showcase, a total offensive fireworks showcase. And you're absolutely right. Just scoring 14 points in this game. San Antonio, obviously going into someone else's house, someone else that has to be Jason's house there in Sioux Falls. It's going to be a tough game, but you probably, and I'm sure Greg probably expected a little bit more from his offense.
Yeah, I think he did. I think he, wanted to come out the gate swinging as well. But, Jason is a wonderful coach. I mean, he's been in the league for a while, and he just knows how to get it done. And, not knocking Corky or nothing like that, but he is a new expansion team, and you're playing against a veteran, But, I mean, it's not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying that, Sioux Falls, they've been winning for a while.
Yeah, and you've been doing it, and I think we're seeing signs of Vancouver doing it. And I absolutely believe that we saw signs of San Antonio and Greg doing it. They just kind of hit a speed bump here, and I fully expect them to kind of get back onto the horse, so to speak, this weekend. All right, let's go ahead and move on to a game that we both know. One, because I own the team, and two, because you were the color commentator for this game. The Dallas Ruffnecks go into Mexico City and somehow, miraculously, defeat the Aztecs 45-38. Mexico City was at the top of our division. Dallas was sitting at 3-4. So able to come up with a pretty good upset here. Thoughts from the game and on these two teams?
Yeah, Dallas in a much needed win fashion comes out ahead on this game. I saw some of this game, but
yeah.
But a great showing out of both teams. Great job by the kicker on Mexico City coming through for a couple of field goals here. But Dallas, with that offense that he's running there with you, Stephen, I think that getting all four of your receivers involved in this game and getting the swing pass to go a little bit too with that non-star in the back was just exceptional.
Yeah, it was like a heavyweight bout, back and forth, back and forth. But I don't think, if I remember correctly, Mexico never led in the game. They tied, I think,
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 times, but never led. It seemed like once Dallas got ahead at the very beginning, they never let it go. Although the game was very, very close. Let's move on because I don't want to talk about myself too much and give away all my secrets. Let's go to Vancouver, headed into Alaska, and took care of business against the red-hot Alaska Storm. Vancouver now is the red-hot team. 4 straight wins after starting 0-4. What is happening in Canada, Shann?
I am not sure, but I think whatever they're doing, they just need to keep on. Alaska has an amazing team. Mighty's a very, very good defensive guy, and I think that Andy kind of had his number tonight or the other night.
Yeah, that's and I think maybe you kind of maybe saw a little bit of that. I mean, Vancouver swept through Texas. I mean, all the Texas teams they defeated. And you're exactly right about Mighty, an excellent coach. You know, underrated on offense. He's been able to get his silver quarterback to do some amazing things. Very underrated what he's done with the offense this year. But yeah, he's known for his defensive prowess. I know a lot about the team. I faced them twice this year already. Lost both times. The last time in our house, I think they put a double nickel on me. So not appreciative of that, but still, regardless. It's a big task. I think Vancouver's biggest win so far to go into Alaska. And, man, they are the hottest team in the SFL right now.
They are. With 4 straight wins, I think if they keep this up, they'll be playoff potential.
All right, now we'll go into the final game of last week, which was week 8. Tallahassee Pride going to Queen City. The champions. They go into the champions' house and come out with a defeat. Queen City Corsairs win this one, a very close battle, 23-20. 2 Titans that are in your division, in your conference, Shann. What did you think about this game?
I think Queen City played a great game, but it wasn't like a magical game. They just did things to get the offense, moving forward. And if you look over here at the Pride, they kind of did the same thing, but I think it come down to defense. I think sometimes their defense was out of formation and allowed Walsh to get out and get into the open, and I think that's where the difference was in this game.
Well, now last season, obviously, these 2 teams met up a couple of times, and they were both blowouts, but both by opposite teams. Tallahassee had a blowout over Queen City. Queen City turned around in the playoffs, had a blowout over Tallahassee. And Tallahassee was really favored to win the championship last year. That's kind of how Queen City can surprise you, especially late into the season and into the playoffs. But here, more evenly matched. It seemed kind of like which team was going to make the least number of mistakes would win. And then Queen City squeezes this one out. But surely one to watch as we go into the postseason with both of these teams right at the top of the Eastern Conference with Atlanta in between them, like an Atlanta sandwich. Queen City 7-1, Atlanta 6-2, and Tallahassee right behind them at 5-3. Obviously tied with Baltimore and your Chicago team
right
there at 5-3. So 2 legendary coaches, 2 legendary teams going head to head. Kind of the matchup you kind of expect, although it's very different from what happened last season.
Right. I think Queen City gets on that nick of the late season games. I mean, once you get past 6,
right, after
that, you better have your ducks in a row because Queen City is coming out the gate swinging, and they do that every year. They may have a 3-1 record 1 minute and lose the rest of the games to that mid-season. And then once that mid-season starts, they just take over, and they somehow get into the playoffs.
A little bit of late bloomers usually, but let's not forget they're 7-1. And I'm not sure. I haven't gone back and looked in the records. I haven't been in the league long enough to know, but I'm not sure Queen City's ever gone 7-1. If Cam was here, would be able to tell us. But I think this may be their best start ever, and there's no reason to think they won't get better. based on history. So that's
Right.
scary to think about that. I'm just glad I'm not in your conference, so I don't have to face them until the championship game.
We faced them week 11, so.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
You know what? Based on how you guys have been going and your big win there against Cleveland, you guys are primed for that kind of a matchup. So we'll see what the weeks bring. Hey, let's go ahead and go over really quickly before we go into the power rankings. Let's go over the standings so we can just kind of give everybody an idea in our own selves an idea of where everybody's standing. Let's start in my Western Conference here. Mexico City sits at 6-2. Alaska 5-3. They're tied with Houston at 5-3. All three of those top three teams in the conference all experienced losses. Houston on a 3-game losing streak. So Houston is trending in the wrong direction. Who's not? Vancouver at number 4 at 4-4. They're tied with Dallas at 4-4. Sioux Falls at 4-4. The main difference between those teams is that Vancouver, as previously mentioned, is on a 4-game winning streak. Here's a quick note. Though out of those three teams, the one with the least amount of net points at -13 is Dallas. -20 Sioux Falls, and -42 Vancouver, yet they are the hottest team. I guess that's what we get for being a quote-unquote late bloomer in that conference. Oklahoma City is 3-5, but they are coming off a win against a tough 5-2 Houston team. And then you've got San Antonio at the bottom of the conference at 1-7. And they are better than that record shows. All right, so we'll go over to the Eastern Conference. Shann, this is your conference. We've talked about Queen City at 7-1, Atlanta at 6-2. They secure the top 2 spots in the conference. Then you've got a 3-way tie for third. Tallahassee, Baltimore, your Chicago team. Cleveland comes in at 3-5. They're going to need to have a push here with only 4 games left in the season. They're going to need to make a big push in order to make the postseason. You've got Carolina coming in at 1-7, and of course we talked about St. Louis, who are winless at 0-8. Any thoughts about that?
I just need Baltimore to lose this next game.
They might be able to do that for you. And we will talk about that matchup between your team, Chicago, and Baltimore here momentarily. But let's go over the power rankings, Shann.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's a no-brainer here, but maybe not. But well, I guess we'll start at I like starting at the top. Queen City's number 1. I think well earned. They've earned the record. They have the right. They're the defending champions. I don't see a problem with that. Do you?
I do not. I mean, they're 7-1 for a reason.
Mexico City coming in number 2 in the power rankings. Now this is either them or Atlanta, really, as far as if you look at the win-loss solely. But they are coming off a loss against Dallas in Mexico City. Does that give you any reservations as Atlanta is coming off a win off the winless Gladiators team?
Not really. I think Mexico City is a great team, and they need to be at that number 2 spot. Atlanta, not so much. They're ranked number 3, but I would actually put maybe Tallahassee or Alaska in front of them.
Wow. Okay, so that goes right to number 3 because Atlanta's in that 3rd spot, and that's what I was going to ask you. Are they underrated in that spot? Are they overrated? And you're thinking maybe Alaska, Tallahassee, maybe even Chicago, who's just a game behind, might be a better fit in that spot?
No, I mean, that's a good spot for them looking at the power rankings, but I think Alaska, I think I put Alaska in a number 3 spot there, and I believe I put Atlanta number 4. But, it's just it's everybody's opinion, and as far as the power rankings as a whole, looks really good in the spot that they're in.
I think Atlanta's. I actually think Atlanta's a little underrated. I don't know if they're better than Mexico City. I do kind of like them right in that 3-4 area, though. Absolutely. Obviously, Alaska, which is who's sitting at 4, is in the conversation. They should be right around in that area. Tallahassee, coming off a loss of Queen City, losing by 3 points to the last year's champions, shouldn't really knock you too much in the rankings. They're here at 5. Is that where they need to be, in your opinion? They're down 1 from last week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Tallahassee is a great team, but you're losing to a number one team, and the record shows it.
Let's just go through the rest of the rankings here. Chicago, your team at 6. Baltimore Crabs at 7. Houston at 8. Vancouver quickly climbing up the charts. Well, they were the same rank change as they were last week. I guess not moving is a good move for them. Dallas at 10 moves up 1. You've got Sioux Falls that moves up 1 after their win over San Antonio. Cleveland falls 2 spots to 12. Oklahoma City, after their big win, actually moves down a spot to 13. San Antonio 14, Carolina and St. Louis round out the bottom of the rankings. Any issues with any of that?
14 and 13 there. I believe I swapped those guys. San Antonio just playing a little bit better to me than Oklahoma City, but it's tit for tat at that point.
Yeah, it's hard to argue some of the spots here. I really think the guys got it right on a lot of these. Although if you win and you beat a team like Houston, I think you should get a little bit more credit than that. But I'm not really sure that they're better than Cleveland or Sioux Falls. So it's a hard argument. Thank goodness everybody votes and everybody has a say. And these are kind of all subjective in a way. So really, the what your record is what you are as a team.
Right.
What I use these actually as an owner, I don't know about you, but as me as an owner, I love when they underrate me or put me at the back. It just gives me more motivation for the week.
Right. And Chicago's sitting 6th, and to me that's a comfortable spot for me. At least we're not 7th. If all in all argument, Chicago should be behind Baltimore because Baltimore did beat us first. But those little things like that, it's just everybody's opinion. We are putting up a lot of points, and then Tallahassee beat us. So, looking at the 5th, 6th, and 7th spot, some things could be different, but overall, I like it.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good ranking this week. All right, let's go ahead and move on now to this weekend's batch of games, and let's start out with Cleveland and Queen City. Obviously, Cleveland coming off a loss to your Chicago team. Queen City coming off a win against Tallahassee. What do you think about this game? I think personally, it's going to be a pass offense in Cleveland versus that stout running back they have there in Queen City.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there. I think Walsh, if he gets around that Cleveland defense, he's going to be gone. I think that the passing game though, and in Cleveland could do a lot of damage to Queen City if done at the right times.
Yeah, and Queen City they have those non-star cornerbacks. Nobody's been able to crack that code yet. Is Cleveland the first one to do it? And they've got a tall task going into Queen City. And we've already talked about how the Corsairs are such late bloomers. So a tall task for Mac Wavy and crew, but definitely one to watch. And that's going to be actually Sunday at 3 p.m. Central. So check that one out. All right, moving on to the Alaska Storm. We're going into San Antonio. Alaska coming off a loss, San Antonio coming off a loss. Both of the teams looking to rebound. Who do you like in this one and why, Shann?
I am going to have to pick Alaska in this game. I love Greg, but just the inconsistency that Greg has proven, thus far is a key element that I think if he can come back in this game here, it might open some eyes up. But Alaska, they're just that little blemish from last week. I think they're still the favorite in this game.
Yeah, and they may be coming back with a sour attitude. But you know what? I think Vancouver might have opened the door a little bit here for San Antonio to get their second win of the season. And seeing how competitive they were in their previous 2 games before last weekend, I think the Vaqueros have a good shot here at home. We'll have to see as they play the game again at 3 o'clock tomorrow or Sunday afternoon. I guess when you're listening to this, it's either Saturday night or Sunday morning because it's going to be I don't think it's going to be very useful after that. Okay. Sioux Falls Sparrows. Oh, this is going to be a good one here. Sioux Falls Sparrows
Yes.
go into Oklahoma City to face the Renegades. The Renegades coming off a rare win, but maybe they're getting back in the saddle a little bit. The Sparrows coming off a big win over San Antonio, but they have had their struggles this season. Who do you like in this one, Shann? Maybe I shouldn't be asking you that. Maybe I should ask you what do you think of the matchup?
It's fine, Steven. I like both of these teams. I like all the teams in SFL, so it's hard to choose from week to week, and one game doesn't really define a team, so just by choosing back and forth, it's just kind of a toss-up, really. But, Sioux Falls, both, like you said, both teams are coming off a huge win. I just think that Sioux Falls can get the job done in the air, where the Renegades is kind of limited to the run game. So, but if they get some stuff to Bovine and some of those other great receivers out there, I think they'd have a shot.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. I think the key in this game might be that goal tight end. Can Oklahoma City figure out how to utilize him properly, get their running game going with Brewski, and control the clock like they did last week in that 23-20 victory. If they can come out with that, some sort of time of possession, if they can win that time of possession, maybe they have a shot at slowing down the Sparrows. And don't underestimate Oklahoma's defense. I've faced them for many seasons. One thing that they're good at, they've got that silver cornerback, and the name is escaping me. Excuse me, but they like to blitz too. So maybe if they can bring that pressure on Tyree, he might be able to force some turnovers, because he has done that in the past. But absolutely a good matchup to watch there. All right, the St. Louis get their first win of the season. It might be one of their better chances to do so as they welcome in the Carolina Skyhawks at 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. What do you think about this matchup?
Carolina has a great offense. I'm going to head and throw that out to start. Mark Biddix is a great quarterback. He can get the job done. Their defense is what's lacking to me, and just some misfortunes along the way. But if anybody can try to make a comeback, and should make a comeback, it's got to be the St. Louis Gladiators. They've got to do something in this game. Like I said previously, their defense was stellar. I mean, it was just amazing to watch. But their offense just can't keep going. So you're flipping. Carolina needs a defense. The Gladiators need an offense. So we'll kind of flip.
Maybe they need to merge those franchises.
Right.
No, they'll get it together. And the thing is, both of these teams, Carolina at 1-7, St. Louis at 0-8, both of these teams desperately need a win for their fan bases. And one of them, that's the good news, one of them is going to get it, unless it's a tie, which would be really ironic. But one of these teams is going to come out with the win and a much-needed victory that might be able to help carry them into next season a little bit.
Right.
All right, let's go to the next game here. The Mexico Aztecs go into the red-hot Vancouver Legion's house. This is going to be one heck of a matchup here. Vancouver, as we've talked about, on a 4-game winning streak. Mexico City 6-2, coming off a loss at home to Dallas. Mexico City, those Aztecs might be pretty angry going up into Canada to face those docile Canadians who have been really red hot. So what do you think about this game?
Vancouver, coming off that huge win from last week, I think they could spoil the upset here. I think they could beat Mexico City. Their run game, I think the Legion is just getting everything and everybody involved, and they're really clicking on that right now. So with the Aztecs, they just need to do what they've been doing. Their record shows it, and moving the ball with Ray Bentley is a must in this game, and stopping his quarter the running back. No, the running back relieves me.
Oh, wait, which one? Ray Bentley?
Fennell.
Okay, Fennell. Okay.
Yeah. The Legion's running back, Fennell. He's a phenomenal running back, but the Aztecs have got to stop him, and then Ray Bentley's got to have a big game like always.
Dude, I can't keep up with these names. They keep switching names. I can't keep up with these names. Mexico City, I think they scored a lot of points last week against Dallas, but they did not use Ray Bentley enough. I think
Right.
they make that change in this game. But what does Vancouver bring to the table after running the table the last 4 weeks? That's going to be a good matchup to watch, and that's why it's the prime time matchup tomorrow night, Sunday
Exactly.
at 7 p.m. Let's go on to Dallas. Dallas playing kind of a weird game against Houston at Houston. That's going to be at 5 o'clock on a Monday, so hurry home from work, everybody. Dallas coming off a two-game winning streak, a pretty big win against Mexico City. Houston Hyenas are on a 3-game losing streak and need to stop the streak and the skid to a stop as quickly as they can. They're at home. They're facing a finicky Dallas Ruffnecks offense that they put up a lot of points, but also can turn the ball over a whole bunch, and they don't run it all. How do you see this game shaking out?
Well, I think Houston needs to see Dallas Ruffnecks as running back. They need to see the running back run the whole time to win it.
Okay, you want Dallas to switch their offense,
yeah,
and just go straight to a non-star running back. It's a gutsy move.
Yeah, that's what the SFL's about, right?
I bet he'd have 100 yards, but we'd have no points.
Just throwing some funny stuff out there. But no, Houston's a great team, man. You can't count them out from week to week. They just had some misfortunes last week. And, Dallas is coming off 2 great wins. I think, Dallas needs to keep doing what they're doing in the passing game. Maybe some, longer shots to the end zone instead of just the short passes.
Hey, I just put the plays in. I don't call them, baby.
That's right. And Houston sticking with that run game, I think that's what's going to be the turnaround for them. And making those third downs. I think they're running behind a little bit with the third downs, but they can get those third down percentages up and keep doing what they're doing. They have a good shot at Dallas.
Yeah, and Houston's quarterback, I think he's going to be the key to this game because William Choice, the Hyenas running back, the Roughnecks were able to shut him down the last time these two teams met and really forced the onus of the offense onto Contrell's shoulders. That's, I think, him staying clean and being effective and scoring points is going to be really huge in that game for them. Okay, let's move on. The Baltimore Crabs are going into Chi-Town, the Windy City, to face the Chicago Wildcats. That one's going to be a Monday Night Football special starting at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time, Monday night. Okay, Baltimore at Chicago. You know this one intimately. Or at least you should. So Baltimore coming off, a credible win, but not a big win, and Chicago coming off again a close game, but a lot of points. I'm just going to ask you about what do you think of the matchup?
Watching film on Baltimore this week, there were some holes that need to be exploited. On their defense, but the Crabs, they're going to bring it, obviously, and I think that what needs to be done is Chicago needs to stay clean with E.T. King. He throws a lot of interceptions. He does get the job done, but coming over from a deficit is way harder. Baltimore will be in the Wildcats' house, but that's not necessarily a guarantee there, even though it sometimes helps with the crowd.
Go ahead, please go ahead.
No, it's just one of those things that's kind of hard to waver. This is a big game for Chicago that we have to win this game, to make a run at the playoffs in the Eastern Division. So this game is huge for us. There's nothing else to say about it.
No, absolutely, you're right. And if I'm the Crabs, I am going to try and do what I can to stop, Chicago's just terrific passing offense. I'm putting the onus of the game on Deion Hawkins, and I'm saying let Hawkins beat us if I'm them, and he is absolutely capable of doing so. It is a catch-22 type situation in Chicago. But the Crabs, they like to grind it out. And, this might be one of those games where the Crabs lock down those claws, and it's not a very high-scoring game. Chicago's coming off of huge 56 points. The ebbs and flows of the SFL, sometimes it can lead to maybe a 13-point game the next game. You just never know. And Baltimore here, like we've talked about, if they're getting back into their old ways, it might be one of those defensive slobber knocker games that you might not necessarily be expecting. So another great game to watch in prime time, and that's the exact reason
for
I
sure
slotted there. I know where you'll be Monday night. Okay.
That's right.
Tuesday night, the final game of Week 9. I want to make sure I said that. I might have said Week 8 earlier. I apologize for that. But Week 9, the Atlanta Swarm at the Tallahassee Pride. Duval. That's right. Frank Gooden's team there at Tallahassee Pride coming off a loss, but not a unrespectable loss because they lost to Queen City. And the Atlanta Swarm coming off a fairly big win. I think this is a statement game. That's an absolute statement game for A-Town. If they can put it to Tallahassee in their house, I think it really puts a statement out there to the SFL to say we are for real and we deserve our power ranking and maybe even more.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Stephen. This is a must-win for Atlanta. Tallahassee, coming off that loss from last week from the Corsairs, don't have to, there's no shame in that. They're the number one team. So it's just going to be a great battle between the Swarm and the Pride here. But for me, I think Atlanta, both teams got the weapons, but I think Atlanta, just that defense that Mark puts together, if they can stop Kim in the backfield, I think it's going to be a long day for the Pride.
You know what? In watching the Atlanta Swarm in their first two seasons, the word that really comes to mind for me is kind of magic. Like, it seems like sometimes they have the magic, man. They look like a playoff team. And in some games, the magic just is totally gone and disappear, like poof. So, what we're looking for from Atlanta, I think some people, although they have them third in the power rankings, but might not give them the respect that they really actually deserve because they want to see more consistency out of the team. And I think this step here against Tallahassee, this pivotal point in the season, Week 9, if they can take a step forward out of that 5-3 group. I'm sorry, no, they're not even 5. Out of that, they're 6-2, but they can separate themselves another game from Tallahassee, who's 5-3. I think that's a huge statement.
Yeah, it is. And we'll just have to see it 7:00 p.m. Central Time.
On Tuesday night, absolutely. Hey, Shann, thank you so much. I know this was last minute. I really appreciate you joining me and helping to fill in for Andy and Mighty, who had some not better things to do, but other things to do tonight. So thank you so much, man.
You're welcome, Stephen. Anytime, man. Anytime.
And thank you guys for listening. This has been the SFL Podcast. My name is Stephen Mullenax. He's Shann Varner. And we'll see
later,
you
guys.
Bye.